Well met, traveler. Welcome to the tavern. Did you know that this magical place is where more than half of history's greatest adventures have begun? Before those adventurers took their first steps, they watched and calculated who would join their party. See that barbarian over there? He hails from the frozen lands. Strong, mighty, and full of wisdom. I've closed many a night with that one. They call themselves Matt Rossi. To the right over there, that woman, working on her tinkers and mechanical devices. An artificer of great skill. She is cunning and quick, and I've seen her bounce a fair share of ne'er-do-wells out of here before I could even step out from behind the bar. She's known as Liz Harper. And that gentleman by the hearth with a pile of tomes. Rumor has it that he is a powerful wizard full of arcane secrets. But around here, most just call him the Professor. Me, I know them to be Phil Ulrich. Oh, me, I'm Joe Perez. I'll be your tavern keeper. Welcome to Tavern Watch. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tavern Watch, where we talk about, well, anything we want to that's tabletop and or game related. Because, well, it's our show, and we can do what we want to. Well, we also do what you want, I hope, maybe. Oh, it's been a weird month.
This intro is sure going.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm Joe Perez, one of your Sherpas on your journey through the tabletop space, and that there was Liz, our editor and chief and resident arcane trickster. How you doing, Liz?
Howdy. I'm here. It's life is great.
Joining us as well as always is, well, he's probably playing a barbarian, and if he's not playing a barbarian, he's probably playing a barbarian. Matt Rossi. How you doing, Matt?
I resent how accurately you know me.
And that last laughter there is joining us as our recurring fourth chair, Phil. How you doing, Phil?
Oh, I'm good. I think I don't get a class or a subclass.
Okay. We keep teetering between, like, you're partially a wizard, but you're also kind of like a rogue. So, like, you're not really an arcane trickster because you're not doing it maliciously or, like, to steal stuff, but you are occasionally giving people stuff that they shouldn't have. I look at my Pokemon.
He did just call me a rogue, which is a little off-brand for me, but I'll take Arcane Trickster. Arcane Trickster is fun.
To be fair, the last time we played a game where I ran for you that was D&D, you did play a rogue.
True.
You played an assassin.
I think I played a Phantom. I think I played one of the weird subclasses that was maybe in Van Richten's guide.
It was.
Yes, Phantom. I remember that character.
Phantom's a good choice, though. I love the Phantom.
So I guess we'll start things as we traditionally do with, I mean, what are you guys up to? Like, what are you reading? What are you playing? Is there anything coming up that is there, that you're really looking forward to? We'll start with Liz.
Oh, gosh. I'm mostly watching things right now. I have been, new Critical Role's out. I am we're 4 episodes into the new Critical Role. I am already 2 episodes behind, which is, of course, the problem with Critical Role, because you've got these big, lengthy episodes, and I think they're great. The new campaign is going great, but also it's hard to keep up. And if you fall behind even one, it's hard to catch back up because, you're talking about a 4-hour time commitment. I've been enjoying it a bunch, though. Another thing I'm really looking forward to watching is Tales from Wood Creek, which is from Deborah Ann Wall is the DM for that one. And it's going to run on the Dungeon Dudes channel. Is kind of it's half D&D, half escape room, half reality TV show, and it's seems extremely creepy. It's very on brand for the Halloween season. That is coming out on the 31st, but they released an early, like a prequel episode, kind of introducing you to some of the characters, which was really fun. That's on the Dungeon Dudes channel right now. And Deborah Ann Wall is just great to watch her running a game because she's so enthusiastic and she's just, it's hard to imagine her doing terrible things to characters, but that does sound like what's about to happen because she's just so nice. She's just so nice and friendly and cheerful. And I'm running our next Tavern Watch Plays game, and I need to figure what that is happening. I think I'm going to do Brindlewood Bay if I can get everyone on brand with me. So I need to plan that, and I've been reading about that one. So I just need to see if I can get any players to come with me on playing, teetering little old ladies solving mysteries that are in no way supernatural or unusual. But that's really all I'm doing in the tabletop space right now.
All right. What about you, Matt?
Well, for starters, I've fallen down yet another one of those wells you find on the internet. This one's about whether or not D&D 4E has got a gaming systems license versus an open game license, and do I have to retro clone it, or can I just use 4th edition with the numbers filed off? So I've been doing that because I have this idea. I basically thought to myself, what 4th edition D&D reminds me of a lot is fighting games. And the reason it reminds me of fighting games is because of the nature of fighting games, where they have moves, they have combos and moves and ultimates and so forth. I don't know, guy, you probably know this, Joe. Riot Games is kind of working on their fighting game, which is like a League of Legends brawler, essentially. Various League of Legends characters who are fighting. And in watching the commercials for it, it kept hitting me, this would be interesting. As like it kind of reminds me of stuff that we always thought Blizzard was going to do, and then they never did. And I started thinking about how would you represent this as a tabletop game? How would you do that as an actual RPG? And then as I was doing that and falling down that well, I tripped and fell into another one, which was yet more retro clones of the Marvel Superheroes RPG from the 80s. And yeah, there are a lot more of them than I knew, and they're coming out more all the time. Like, it's like every week there's a new one. I just found out about, this one's not that new, but it's Astonishing Superheroes, which is, it's slightly less of a ripoff than Phase Rip was, which is, Phase Rip is just straight up the old rules with new names for things. This one has an updated karma system, so it's a little different. But yeah, I've been reading through that. Yeah, and then I stumbled upon Lodestar. Have you guys seen Lodestar? Anybody?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, Lodestar is like, I don't know why this exists, but it had a backer kit type thing. It's actually on backer kit, where they put out, they wanted the 10,000 pounds is British currency, and they got 158,598 British pounds. So how about we
talk about what it is?
But that's the thing. It's just Spelljammer.
Yeah.
It is just Spelljammer. It's not like I understand wanting to do space fantasy in your role-playing games. I get it. Heck, we just played Starfinder last week. I am totally down. But Lodestar is just Spelljammer. It's the boats, the flying in space.
You're saying that like it's a bad thing, but we're living in
I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing. I'm saying it like it confused me for a long time.
Why?
Like I thought this was a Wizards product.
That's because Wizards won't actually do
Spelljammer
exactly. right? Like, so
forget doing it right. They don't do it at all. They did it, like, released it and then boom. We can go on and on about why that happened, but it just struck me as so odd that at this point, yet again, like, the players in the community are putting out the products that Wizards aren't.
Yeah.
And so it really, I'm not saying this is bad. I've been reading through it. It looks really kind of cool. I am interested in this product. This is not me saying I'm not, but it feels so odd to me that they basically they were finally like, you know what? I'm tired of waiting for them to do something. It makes me think someone's going to have to make Dark Sun. Someone is going to have to do Dark Sun because, Wizards isn't gonna. They're going to release more Forgotten Realms books. And I have nothing against Forgotten Realms, but come on, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, if the Unearthed Arcana is anything to go by, we might actually be getting some form of Dark Sun. I don't know that it'll be what we want or the what we expect a Dark Sun game to actually be, but there seems to be somebody at Wizards is at the very least looking at that. But
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I've been doing. Looking at tons of superhero RPGs that are retro clones, looking at 4th edition, trying to figure out how to make it work for some idea I have, and then spending a ton of time looking at Lodestar. At first being confused because I honestly thought it was a Wizards product. I'm like, I didn't hear about this. When did this come out? It's kind of like I thought it was like the Exodus book, which I still haven't managed to get my hands a copy of, and I'm really upset about that. But it was like when the Exodus book dropped, and we were all like, what?
Well, Exodus was just a third-party book.
Yeah. So I thought this might have been that. like the Exodus book similar, but no, it's completely separate. It's not even people tangentially related. Like Exodus books was tangentially related in that it is people who are working on a game for Wizards of the Coast. Granted, it's a video game they're working on, but nevertheless, it's got connections, whereas this doesn't at all. But I honestly thought it was, because it's like so Spelljammer. I'm like, why did you not do another Spelljammer book or anything? I don't know. It's just what hit me.
And maybe we can talk about this topic in a minute, but like I think there's something there that we can crack open a little bit. But I want to move on to Phil and see what Phil's been reading and what Phil's been looking forward to cracking into.
Oh man, unfortunately, I've been reading a whole lot new right now. I will have some new books in my hot little hands next week. My Draw Steel books, the physical books, finally shipped, which has taken a while even in the U.S. Because of the extremely small team at MCDM. But my books should be here next week, so I will finally have these 2 colossal tomes. Still running both Draw Steel. I've got another session of that tomorrow, and we actually played another session of Fabula Ultima last night, which is really fun, kind of leaning super hard into JRPG tropes, which is always fun for me. And I've watched about 30 minutes of the first episode of the current season of Critical Role, because, man, it's been a week. It's been a month, so I've not had a lot of time to sit down and watch gigantic actual plays or anything. Yeah, I think that kind of sums up what I'm up to right now.
Yeah, cool. For my part, I've actually been going back through the Magic the Gathering settings for D&D, of which there are 3. So you have Theros, you have Ravnica, and you have Strixhaven. Ravnica probably being one of the most recognizable as like distinctly Magic the Gathering, with Strixhaven being essentially Harry Potter without any of the transphobia. The reason I'm doing this is because there's, for the first time in a very long time, there's an official Magic novel coming out relatively soon in the next like few months. And it's based around Strixhaven. It's called Omens of Chaos by Shanann Maguire. And we haven't had an official Magic novel, an actual Magic novel, in, it has to be at least a decade at this point, if not more. Something that they sort of abandoned. You used to be able to get like boxes of the stuff. Like you would get a box that would come with like 6 packs in a book and like a 20-sided die for tracking life totals. You don't get that anymore. It hasn't been that way for a while. And people have been asking, well, why have you abandoned stories? Why is everything just done on web series and like these like poorly written articles or posts that like never get any attention? And so they were like, fine, we're going to push out a book in 2026. And I'm really excited for it because Strixhaven's one of my favorite settings, both as a Magic set and a D&D world, because
it's D&D. Its little D&D book was so fun. That was just a great book.
And not only that, but it did what the original Forgotten Realms was supposed to do, and what we haven't really seen done since like the invention or introduction of Planescape in any real value, which is it created a multiversal junction point. It created an easy-ish to get to plane that all of the worlds could link to. Anybody could go to Strixhaven from any of the D&D worlds. It didn't matter where you were from. It all linked in the same way that it links to all the Magic planes. And so it was sort of like that really cool, like, yes, it's supposed to be like a high school / university, but also it's where people who normally wouldn't get to interact with each other get to interact with each other and get to learn about the multiverse, and actually acknowledges the multiverse in more than just like going from point A to point B. And I thought that was always really, really cool. The characters were cool. The class specializations were cool. I just love Strixhaven. I love the aesthetic of it. I love everything about it. It's still one of my favorite Magic sets that's ever released as well. And I'm looking.
You know what's funny here?
Go ahead.
As this is going on, I'm really, this highlights one of the places where you and I have a difference, in that Theros is one of my favorite D&D books that came out in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I think it is the best Magic
it's very good
campaign.
There was a good book.
But I haven't looked at Strixhaven because I think the Harry Potter thing
Well,
really turned me off. I know it's not actually Harry Potter, but when people describe it to me as Harry Potter, that's what turned me off, and I just never got a chance to get it.
The thing is, the sort of magic school just idea can be a really fun idea because, like what Joe is saying, you're mixing a lot of things that wouldn't necessarily go together, and it gives you this built-in reason why you're starting an adventure, why you're all gathering up, and why you're here together. And it offers so many possibilities for adventure, and it's nice to have that is not Harry Potter, because Harry Potter has become so omnipresent and it's problematic.
A little tainted, yeah.
So this is another thing that is great about Strixhaven, is it gives us this setting that has its own deep lore and gives us a reason to bring all of our characters together and throw them in a melting pot.
And one of the things I think is really, like, to me, it embodies sort of like the essence of D&D in that regard, because one of the things that everybody forgets about is that most of the time in like your tabletop role-playing games, your starting party of adventurers are not adults. They're like 16. If you look at like the old A&D books, like when you actually rolled for your age ranges for all of the species that you could play were basically you're a teenager, go out and adventure, right? Like, and like you don't deal with any of that stuff. You just go and deal with high adventure. And it's, tries to be like that Lord of the Rings-esque thing. Strixhaven was just like, no, you are starting this adventure as kids. You're first-year students. You don't know what's going on. And I think that's really cool and organic.
Dungeons & Dragons cartoon for this.
You can blame the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon for it.
Which, by the way, I actually did unabashedly love as a kid.
But I don't think it's the fault of the cartoon existing that's where the trope is. But
no, it's not. I'm being.
But
but at the same time, it's a really good example of how comfortable they were with that idea. This is a cartoon that came out from 83 to 85, 3 seasons. And it's a cast of kids. They're all fairly young kids, and they're just thrown into a monster-filled world. And if you take a couple seconds to think about it, they could very well be in Strixhaven. There's no reason they couldn't. They all have weird magic powers, even the Cavalier.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, even Strixhaven,
you make me think about it.
But Strixhaven has things that aren't magic related too. It's not just a magical school for magic users only. There are people that don't have magic that are there that are learning things. Like, that's what I like about it. But I think we've talked about that quite a bit, and I think we're gonna move on from there. So I want to circle back to something that Matt talked about a little bit earlier as a little bit of an op-ed piece here, because I think it's important. One of the things we've been seeing more frequently is like with with the setting that Matt was bringing up being essentially Spelljammer.
Lodestar.
Yeah.
Lodestar.
With Lodestar, it's filling a niche that isn't being filled by the original property holders. And we're seeing more and more of that, especially as Hasbro and Wizards take a more selective direction with their game books and what they put into their game world. We saw it with 5th edition. 5th edition, while it did go multiple places, always veered towards the basic Forgotten Realms, right? You were on the Sword Coast. You were doing things there. That's where they wanted to focus everything. And while other books like Strixhaven or Theros or the other stuff existed, they were never a focus point. And so you would get a book release and then nothing more.
They do a ton of one and dones.
And in 4th edition, like we were talking about with like Dark Sun, there's a whole series of books. And when they went to a plane or they went to a different section, there was a whole series of books that fleshed it out and gave people the tools to run it. And you don't see that as much anymore. And I think it's interesting the number of people stepping up to fill that gap. So I don't know, like, what other projects have you guys seen that sort of fill that void?
There's one. Go ahead.
I can actually think of one right away. So the last time that I can think of that we had not a Strahd related piece of content, but a full-on Ravenloft setting was way back in.
You're gonna mention White Wolf on, aren't you?
And White Wolf had to do it, yeah.
Well, White Wolf
imprint. Yeah.
Sorry, White Wolf did all the horror imprint stuff, literally all of it.
Exactly. And then, of course, we got Curse of Strahd, fairly popular from probably a thing to cover another time. This thing where they don't actually do settings, they just do entire campaigns with no room to swerve. But that's another thing. And also, that one is basically a reprint of a 1979 module. But I would point at Chapelwick, which is on Kickstarter right now, which actually my wife just backed because she wants to run it. Is doing horror where D&D is not. And
is this the one that's referred to as a Soulslike cosmic horror?
Yeah, it's got Bloodborne as one of its major inspirations. Yeah. But it also it's got like the regular horror. It's got a lot of cosmic horror stuff in it. It touches on properties like Bloodborne, etc. So it's not quite the same as a Ravenloft per se, but it is like, Blizzard. Blizzard, wrong one. Hasbro, who did this one and done with Curse of Strahd, never went back to look at the rest of Ravenloft, never even acknowledged any other like horror things like that again. And there's so much more to Ravenloft than Barovia, but they've kind of they say, here's our one horror campaign, enjoy. And then there's like third party things like the setting that the Dungeon Dudes also have like a couple of books out for now.
Dungeons of Drakkenheim.
Drakkenheim, yeah. And then Chapelwick, both are two third-party products that are kind of bringing back horror as a horror or dark fantasy as a D&D setting option.
Yeah. What about Matt, Liz? Do you got one that
I have one, but I can't remember the name of it. I was just looking at it. There's a crowdfunding thing I was just looking at. It was for a game that basically takes D&D and tries to make it like, what if D&D but Apocalypse World? Like, what if it was powered by the Apocalypse D&D? What if it was, oh bloody heck, man, I hate when my brain does this because it's the heisting game. You guys know the heisting game, the one where you do heists.
Blades in the Dark.
Ocean's 11?
Thank you. Yeah, Blades in the Dark. It's like
okay.
Ocean's 11 is not a game exactly, but hey.
Nope.
Yeah. Pigeons 11 is a game that we have played.
Pigeons
so
11. No, I thought you said Ocean's 11. Okay, but no, yeah, it's basically
right next to each other on the keyboard.
They took D&D and they basically just ran it through one of the light rules narrative RPGs, and they like all the classes, everything, and they crowdfunded it, and it got crowdfunded. It made 10 times what they were asking for, and I'm sitting here going, why do you need that? Because you could pretty much just do that with D&D if you wanted to. But I realize it's because people want this to be easier. Like, it's really hard right now to know what level they want D&D to be at. Like, D&D still has a pretty heavily minis inspired tactical grid thing. It's still right there. You move this many feet. What can you do within that space? This ability has a circle. It does this ability. It does a thing out from you, and it's not really. It can be narrative difficulty. It can be difficult to narratively run theater of the mind, whatever you want to call it, a D&D game. It is not always as easy as you might like. So. And I say this like it's just D&D and doing this. I mean, I like Pathfinder a lot, but let's be upfront. Pathfinder can be real hard to run.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not talking about just like the ease of running, though, right? Like that's not really
no, but not
the
just
scope
ease of
it.
running. The ease of creating a narrative game with it, which can be confusing for people, and some people want to simplify it, and they're doing it.
I think that's
just
a little bit
out
out
there doing it.
Yeah, which is fair, and I think that there are definitely tools that are making it easier. But in this particular case, the question really is things that are carrying on settings that D&D has abandoned.
Oh, there's also one for the Mystara, by the way.
Yes, and I was gonna that's a really good one as well.
Yeah, that's the one I try not to mention too much because then my heart gets sad. Because I loved the Mystara books. I loved the entire BECMI Dungeons and Dragons box sets. I thought they were great. Back when everybody else was on AD&D, I held on to those things for like years. I didn't give up on those things till Aaron Alston died, because he was writing the Gazetteer sets, which you can still buy, by the way. They're out there. You can get them. You can go to DriveThruRPG and they'll print you out one. I loved that stuff, and so people are like, no, why don't you ever do Mystara? They've never done Mystara since 3rd edition. It's never gotten a revamp. It's never gotten brought out again by Wizards. So now people are actually doing it. There's like 2 people working on different projects there.
Yeah, and I think there's elements of that too. Like, and you mentioned with Lodestar, The space stuff gets brought up a lot because there was a whole healthy space section of D&D in 3rd edition. And even it was present in 2nd edition, maybe not as prevalent, but like
Well, it started in 2nd edition, right?
it did, yes.
And when Planescape came out, it actually got a boost because then they tied the two together, which they tried to do in 5th edition. To be fair, they did try to make both Planescape and Spelljammer connect, but they didn't. They did a Planescape book, and then they didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, the players are craving it, and you can see this with the third-party content that's being created, with the resurgence of like Spelljammer, the resurgence of the other one that I thought was interesting was Starfinder, the original. Star Frontiers, excuse me.
Then they brought the Star Frontiers races back, and then they just,
But they never brought the setting back, but we've seen people try to third party and bring it back, which I think is always interesting.
Liz was the one who twigged onto it before anybody else at this podcast, I think, about the really bad job they did with the Hadazee.
Well, sometimes they make some major missteps, but I don't know that that's necessarily the scope of this particular question or interaction. So I'm going to move over to Liz. I know Liz has been playing maybe not as long as the rest of us, but is there anything you've seen in the third-party space that feels like it's something that is filling a gap that Wizards has abandoned or that Hasbro has abandoned?
Well, I feel like, I'm really familiar with 5e, that's the past decade of Wizards of the Coast. And it feels like this is kind of one of the strengths of 5e, is that it is a system that can support lots of different things. And it's, again, just from the past decade that I've been following the game, it feels par for the course that Wizards releases, here's a source book with something kind of different than stock fantasies. Here's another source book. So here's Spelljammer, here's Theros, here's Strixhaven, and you get a book, and then you can adapt that to anything else. But that feels normal. But one of the big strengths of D&D, of 5e, is that it's a system that's not super hard coded to play in the Forgotten Realms, in any specific setting. It's a very flexible set of rules that you can put anything to. And because it had a good licensing agreement, you had all of this third-party content. It doesn't matter if Wizards of the Coast is making it. You can find any kind of niche content that's 5e compatible that you want. If you want horror, you can find it. If you want sci-fi, you can find it. It's all out there because it's so easy to adapt 5e. And Wizards of the Coast, they seem to be really good about putting out one book and here's the book where you can do this. Okay, here's the book where you can do this, and not expanding on it, which leaves so much room for the community. And I think that's part of what has made the D&D community really great, is that there's so much room. There are so many spaces that the community can fill and has eagerly done.
Yeah. Well, that's not to say that D&D hasn't been busy with their own slew of things, like you've stated, and I think that leads us back right into our news topics. And, well, I think we're just going to start cracking right on with it, which one that I think is not surprising to anybody here, but might be surprising to people at home. You may remember that D&D was going super hard into their virtual tabletop experience called Sigil. Well, seems like that might not be the case anymore, as it is exited maintenance mode and full development has stopped on it. Now, Phil, you threw this in here. Why did you fill us in?
Pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The Sigil tabletop was the depressing looking playing experience of everyone sitting around a table staring at their laptops. It had powerful enough graphics cards to run this 3D Unreal application. Sigil was their 3D VTT. This was the future, we were told, and this was going to be how people played D&D. And then it was just put into maintenance mode because it turned out it was hard to run, weirdly clunky. Like putting full development on this was probably way more than Hasbro was willing to invest in Wizards of the Coast, I would guess, is what happened behind the scenes. And I think they laid off pretty much the entire team except for like one guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was put into what we were told kind of an indefinite maintenance mode. Well, after their third quarter reports with Hasbro this past week or two, it was this past week, there was an announcement posted on D&D Beyond that said that they are closing the chapter on Sigil. It is not even going to be in maintenance mode anymore. It's just going to exist up through the end of October 2026. You can continue to use it until then, but at 2026, everything in it is gone. If you used a master tier subscription or a paid subscription D&D Beyond at any point to access Sigil, you got 6 free months out of it of subscription to D&D Beyond. So there's that for you. And if you pre-ordered the digital stuff for Sigil and you got the Sigil exclusive Gold Dragon miniature, you get a new set of digital dice for D&D Beyond. So it kind of appeared. It didn't make much of a splash as far as I can tell, and now they're just going to quietly take it out back and old yeller it. So
yeah,
goodbye, Sigil.
This is one that I'm snarky about it a lot, but I actually feel really bad for people that essentially invested in this, invested their time, invested their money, and I of course feel bad for the developers who got fired. That's also bad. But I feel like it wasn't a bad idea to do a virtual tabletop, and I feel like that's the lesson that they want to take. But it's not that a virtual tabletop is a bad idea. It's that you tried to make it a video game at the same time.
Well, not only that, but you're trying to do it at the same. Sorry, go ahead, Liz.
It feels like they started development on this kind of back when Baldur's Gate 3 first came out. And it was such a huge hit. And they're like, we want that, except you can play your tabletop campaign in it. And that's a big ask.
Look at Neverwinter Nights. They tried it.
I was just going to say there's a precedent for that, though, because Neverwinter Nights was actually very good at it. And they actually gave you campaign tools in 3rd edition to run, basically to make campaigns and run them fully in Neverwinter Nights, complete with turn-based and initiative trackers and combat, stuff like that.
People are still doing it.
Yes, people are still doing it.
But not just people. I say people like it's just random players and stuff. It's not. They're making official releases to Neverwinter Nights to this day. They just released a whole bunch of going back to what do you call it? Going back to Icewind Dale module. And it's licensed. It's not the original developers, but it's licensed by Hasbro. They're still doing that. And can you imagine if they adjust?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, absolutely. They're releasing stuff to this day. They absolutely are. They've licensed it out. I forget the name of the company. I can go look at this stuff up if you want.
Yeah, because that doesn't really necessarily seem accurate anymore. But neither here nor there. The point, though, is, or at least for me, is that it always felt weird that they were trying to enter the virtual tabletop space when there were already a ton of third parties that were already doing it very well. And it always seemed a little weird to me that why wouldn't you just hook your wagon up to that and make license deals instead? You offload the development costs, you offload the costs. I understand the mentality is, but then you're not reaping all the profits. But at that point, you're still reaping a ton of benefit because you have Fantasy Grounds, you have Roll20, you have all of these other ones that are capable of doing it. Heck, Tabletop Simulator has a rather robust community of D&D assets for creating and running D&D games. So I would be very interested to see why the decision was made when all the rest of us are this doesn't seem like it'd be that good. I don't know. Regardless, but that's not the only other thing that they're doing or not doing. There are some good news. There's at least some good news for the Forgotten Realms stuff coming out. We've talked about the Heroes of the Forgotten Realms, which was going to be releasing, I think it's relatively soon-ish, or at least pretty soon on the horizon. The full book was previewed at the New York City Comic-Con, and if you were there, you could go ahead and spin through it and take a look at it, and there are some very blurry images available. But we also found out that the 8 subclasses, essentially, from the Unearthed Arcana, have made it to the print of the book. They are official. So you have everything from your big subclasses, from your College of the Moon Bard to the Knowledge Domain Cleric to Oath of the Noble Genius Paladin, Winterwalker Ranger, Scion of the Three Rogue, Spellfire Sorcerer, Bladesinger Wizard, which is one that I've been super excited for, and then the Banneret Fighter. So It's really, really cool. And the Banner Fighter maybe not sound familiar, but that's the Purple Dragon Knight, which is an old 3rd edition prestige class that got brought back as a subclass. I don't know what you guys think about this.
I think it's interesting that Karlach's on the cover. It's like, guys.
And Minsk, yeah.
It's Minsk, Karlach, and that's the Blackstaff of Waterdeep, by the way.
Kelvin? That's Kelvin or runs?
No, the current Blackstaff.
The current Blackstaff.
Yeah. I don't know who the current one is.
Some of these are interesting, but man, imagining a scion of the 3 rogue in a heroic party is kind of wild.
Right?
Because that is the dead 3, or the 3 referred to there. The villains from
Bane, Ball, when you
get down to it.
Bane, Ball, and Merkel. That's me. I work for them.
Yeah. Interesting choice. Banner Fighter will be interesting to see what the final version looks like, because it was in one of the earlier books in the non-2024 version of 5e, and it was bad.
Oh yes, it's really bad.
Super tied to Cormyr, which is a Forgotten Realms setting, which is cool, but the class was just super bad.
The Purple Dragons are Cormyr's military, essentially. They're like their honor guard or whatever. So it made sense, but they didn't.
Yeah, and then it went through so many changes in the Unearthed Arcanas. There was one where they leaned harder into the Purple Dragons, but also took it away from Cormyr, and you had like an Amethyst Dragon companion, which was a wild take on it. And then they kind of backed that out in its entirety and went, no, it's the Banneret now, and it's just a support fighter. They can be from anywhere. Which
I think is interesting, because like this in particular the College of the Moon Bard are very support focused classes, and we've talked about this before. You don't see a lot of that in D&D that isn't just straight up healing, and so adding actual subclasses that are not healing focused that give you other options, like the College of the Moon Bard being able to, like, I don't know, teleport or to grant allies movement abilities, like stuff like that is really cool, because it lets you, again, it's more heroic, less, even if it is a little bit of that tabletop war game route, but like being able to use my magic to, I don't know, give Phil an extra move to get out of harm's way is always seemed very D&D. So like, I really like that. I think that's really neat.
I gotta say, looking at this, the thing that interested me was the idea that you could give other people your second win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which was a thing that they tried to do with the first version of it, but it was also very bad, because it's like you got your 1 second wind, and like your party got like a really bad copy of second wind at the same time. It was like you rolled for second wind, and then like someone got like 2d6 recovery, but this thing was so late the 2d6 was barely a drop in the bucket.
Plus it was tied to your second wind.
Yeah, they had to wait for you to heal.
Yeah, like if you use second wind, everybody else got to benefit from it. But if you didn't use it, because why would you? You're not damaged. He is. It's so at least this one sounds like it might be interesting. Although they do also have a dragon, apparently, still.
Oh, did they get the dragon back?
Because instead of fighting with your dragon and then at 7th level being able to ride it, you gain so I guess they've replaced it with team tactics.
Yeah, they've replaced the dragon with team tactics. Okay, well that's cool. I'm interested in that. I really want to see what the Noble Genie Paladin looks like too. I just think that's kind of a cool concept for a Paladin.
Yeah, I mean,
I would play it. I would play a Genie Paladin.
A Genius Paladin. Yeah, it's. I'm very interested in this book. It's one of the few ones that they'll be putting out that I am actually probably going to snag day one. So I'm going to go through some of the other stuff here, because again, there's been a bunch of stuff going on. The Scion Unearthed Arcana returns for another round of testing, looks like. What's the short version of that one, Phil?
The short version is the Scion, which we think is maybe a sign that they're going to be doing Dark Sun, because it's the Psionic class. Is got a second round of testing focusing on feedback from the first one. They previously had Psionic modes, which were like a weird stance type feature. Those got cut entirely, but the parts that scored well got put into the subclasses that used them. All the subclasses got updates, more than we can really cover here. They get cantrips more frequently, the Scion does now, and they're more flexible in how you can get and also how you can spend psionic energy dice, which is kind of the universal resource for psionic subclasses and for the Scion itself. So just another round of testing. Looks a lot better now, I think. So
Excellent. The survey by Start Playing has shown that there's positive mental health and relationship effects from playing tabletop RPGs, in which it looks like they surveyed 1,000 players, found that mental health, friendship, and even romantic relationships were often facilitated by playing role-playing games. I feel it's very much akin to, I judge people on how they treat service staff. I absolutely judge people on how they treat the town hall, the town people in a D&D game.
It's true.
That's weird. That's one of the weird things is like how often in tabletop people are like, I'm just going to kill him and take his stuff. And it's like, he's the shopkeeper. What? I've never understood this. It happens in video games too, but in your tabletop game, it's weird because everybody else is watching you, man. The rest, I'm playing a paladin over here. I can't just let you murder this guy.
I always hear about these kind of player stereotypes. I've literally never encountered it at a table, and it feels like it would be the start of a post on the RPG Horror Stories subreddit if you do.
I haven't had it in years, but I remember when I was like much younger, like 17, 18 years old, we had one guy who was so bad that he ended up getting killed. And the thing is that the DM obviously just killed him. Like he had like people show up and just kill him, and he left in a huff and he was like, "Okay, can we never invite him again?" Like seriously, like this guy is crazy. So I've had it happen, but not very often. But when it does, it's like, why? What possible benefit do you get out of this? He's a shopkeeper. He doesn't have anything that great. We're all third level.
Well, it's okay because at least go ahead, Liz.
On the flip side, it also feels like you get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, random NPC, what's your name?" And then you're playing the GM and you're like, his name is Corey. This is Corey the shopkeeper. And then, they make best friends with the shopkeeper.
And then the party adopts the goblin.
Play a shopkeeper NPC who is your party's best friend, and they're, adopting him.
I ran a campaign.
Sometimes,
I ran a campaign for my wife and one of my friends and my friend's kid, and the kid decided he was going to adopt a kobold that was attacking them.
Yeah,
and by the end of that
players
game,
do that.
That kobold was now their friend who saved them from an encounter because they all went down and the kobold was rolling 20s. And I was like, I'm the one doing this. I'm killing my own encounter with this kobold. Oh, God.
Why are you hitting yourself, Matt? Why are you hitting yourself?
Yeah, they named him. So I didn't have to. So I was like, all right, since you came up with the name, I'll just run with it. But yeah, people will do that. They will decide this kobold is my friend. The kobold's literally like, the cat trying to bite people.
This article and survey though is specifically not necessarily what they do with those. It's that our interpersonal relationships are improved via this method, which I think is really interesting.
It helped my friend and his kid. Straight up, it was the first time they bonded over anything because he was a stepchild. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned.
This is a way to socialize in a way that is socializing, and you have some structure. It's totally acceptable to reach out and act in ways that you might not normally do in real life. This is a great place to explore and to try things and have conversations that might be difficult to have in real life. So I think tabletop gaming is a great way to learn or practice social skills and to learn empathy and learn how to work with people and teamwork and leadership. There are so many skills you can learn by playing a tabletop game. And it's fun. We're playing games, but there's tabletop gaming in particular, more than computer games, certainly. It's something you have to do with friends. You mostly have to do with friends. And yeah, that makes a big difference. That makes all the difference because you're playing with your friends.
Plus I don't have to go bowling, dude.
Fair enough. Okay.
There's always the risk you're going to step on a D4 though if you're playing tabletop games. So there's some danger.
Yeah, the chance of dying by rolling dice in real life is never quite zero. There's more stuff going on around the world here that we just want to cover real quick. A couple more. Darrington Press has just launched a Kickstarter for Daggerheart, which is class card packs, which look like they're going to be $25 each. So that is alive and well. Go ahead, Liz.
It's that's only going on for another day or two if you're listening to this. They're just so when you buy Daggerheart, it comes with a pack of cards for each class. But maybe you have other players who want to play. This is just the cards. So just the cards for a different class, and the cards contain most of the rules. So if you just wanted the cards and maybe you have a PDF of the game and don't need everything, you can buy packs for specific cards. And I personally think this is going to be a great way for them to add classes in the future. You can say, let me just buy a card pack for a new class.
Yeah,
and I have all I need to know about that class.
Who knew booster packs were a good way to expand your game?
Yeah, if you back this on Kickstarter, you actually get a digital copy of the core rules with it free.
Yeah.
So this is
super easy.
Yeah, and it's nice for everyone at the table to have reference materials, but trying to get every player at your table to invest in a $50, $60 book is a big haul. But if you can say, hey, buy this $25 pack of cards, it's got everything you need to play your class, you don't have to share with anybody else, you get a copy of the rules in PDF. That's a cool concept. I like this.
Yeah. It should also be mentioned that at least now these cards are actually physical.
Yes.
As opposed to just having a sheet of them in your book that you can print out and then cut. These literally now you will just have them, which is a lot. Sometimes stuff like that, it's cool in concept, but it doesn't really work as well on the page. And that's why it's good that you actually have them in the card format where you can figure out how to use them more effectively. It took me a while to get the way that they worked class stuff and Daggerheart. So I think that this is a good thing for them, quite frankly.
And I mean, if you buy the Daggerheart physical edition, it does come with card packs, or probably there may be a version difference that comes with card packs for every class. It's kind of baked into the design as having these sort of cards.
And they weren't there in PDF.
And to be perfectly clear, the cards are essentially everything you need to play a character class. So that's why they're important.
It's kind of a different way to do a character sheet, ultimately. It gives you
all of your skills. It's all of your skills and abilities. I would think you would still want your character sheet because that's going to give you things like your armor and your health and things like that. Some other rules are on the character sheet, but you can just download character sheets and print them. And then the cards have all of your class stuff, all of your class options for every level of the game, all in the pack. And that is $25 pack. That's still a commitment to the game, but it's not like buying, a full $60 printed rule book.
Yeah. Speaking of other things going around in the community, you may remember that Starbreeze, there was the studio that makes the Payday series, had been developing what they were calling Project Baxter, which is a co-op D&D game for quite a while now. Well, that's done. They've stopped the development; it has been canceled. And we're not sure why, if it was something to do with them or if this was another call from Hasbro to claw back certain things like we've seen them do in the past, like cancel some integration.
Didn't Starbreeze lay off a bunch of people?
They did too.
Yeah, as part of this, they laid off 44 people, split between staff and contractors, and also wrote off the equivalent of $27.2 million in development costs.
Yeah, which terrifyingly is.
I think that right there might be the key takeaway, is that they'd already spent $27.2 million, and this thing didn't even have a name.
Yeah.
Or much. I don't know if this was WotC or if this was because there are.
We don't know what came first, essentially, right?
But that's gone. It was a co-op, which was going to be cool, but also it had been announced that it was going to be another live service game. I'm just not wild about that concept. So
yeah, I don't think.
It sounded half good. It sounded half interesting, and then you're like, oh, so it's live service, and you're like, oh, okay. I've played the occasional live service game that I didn't hate, but I'm worried about this already. And then nothing, and then it's gone. So.
Yep.
And also, they're supposedly opening a new game studio in Montreal. Wizards of the Coast is doing this.
Yeah, they're supposed to be opening one to do in-house development of D&D video games, which is part of the thing. Like Joe said, this may just be them like pulling licenses back in-house so that they can do more things.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of 2007 with the whole Atari thing. Like, I don't know if guys remember that for like several years there weren't any D&D games because Hasbro and Atari were fighting over the rights. So.
And then one oldie but a goodie, GURPS, which has been around forever, and we often joke about is one of the more complicated games to play, is getting a fourth edition, GURPS 4th edition is getting a revised edition, which was maybe announced, but probably mostly leaked, Phil?
Yeah, they kind of apparently at Gamehole Con, which happened within the past couple weeks, Steve Jackson Games announced this and detailed it to people at the con, and then released nothing anywhere else. Someone had to ask about it on their forums. Go, hey, I heard through the grapevine there was going to be a revision to the 4th edition. What's up, you guys? And they did, in fact, confirm it. It is not a new edition. This is not even a revision on par with the D&D edition revision. They say a lot of them are changes to physical layout and design to make it easier to use and read at the table. But then at the same time, and this is my favorite, one of their top priorities is to preserve page number references, so that whether you're using, no matter what version of product you're using with 4th edition GURPS, the page, like if it tells you to look on page 33 of the 4th edition book, no matter what version of it you're using, it'll be on page 33. So that's kind of cool. And they said that there's a little rewriting, but it's to remove, quote, particularly offensive or unclear passages, not to change rules. So
yeah, they even said, didn't they even promise there's no rules changes?
Yeah, they have a post from their forums with, it states in multiple places that there are no rule changes. It is not, like I said, it's not a 5e level 2024 level revision. It is strictly usability. The takeaways: better, more readable layout, different arts and quotes, fewer controversial words, accepting indefinite pronouns for economic reasons, more than 25 pages of best of rules skimmed from 21 years of system growth, incidental glitch cleanup, and promise of no rules changes or page reference changes.
What's weird about this is not the first time they've done this.
Nope, I remember at least two versions of 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd edition, they did the exact same thing with layout change and everything. I think in that one they actually did change some page number, which makes sense that they're now saying we don't do that again, because people got mad. People will get real mad about things like that. So yeah, it's wild to see Steve Jackson Games still lives kind of in its own universe.
Yeah, they're kind of big in they've kind of been doing their thing forever, and they have recently also majorly entered the indie RPG space by absorbing Possum Creek Games and bringing on J Dragon as, I think, one of their heads of design now.
Yeah.
So they are clearly making a push into the indie space, but
I mean, they are technically an independent game company. I mean, nobody else owns them. They've been making games for 30 years. Didn't they cause like the FBI to raid them at one point because their Cyberpunk game was too realistic?
I think it was the NSA, wasn't it, Joe?
I think it was, yeah.
Somebody raided them. Yeah, so the only indie game studio I know that's been raided by the feds.
Well, for now. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for the news. And I did want to make sure we got to a question today, because we haven't really gotten a lot of them. And I want to encourage more. And I figure answering the question might actually encourage you all to send some more in. And this one comes from our Patreon supporter, Tetsemi, which thank you very much, Tetsemi, for your continued support and all the questions you send in. You are a true boss. There's the story the GM wants to tell, the story the players want to tell, and the actual storyteller, the dice. Have you ever had a dice roll completely derail a story, and did it make it better or worse? How do you, as a DM, handle the situations where the story the dice want to tell is counter to everything you and the players want to do? That is a very good question, and I have my answer, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. We'll start with Liz, because Liz hasn't talked much this episode.
So I can't think of any specific examples, but I think this is the core reason why you don't want to hold too tightly to a story. I mean, you may have a story you want to tell, but it's better to have an outline of a story, because if you're the DM, to have an idea of possibilities, because the players could push this in a lot of different directions. And players similarly need to not hold too tightly to the details of what they're doing, because the dice could tell a different story. You have to be willing to roll with it. You have to be willing to go with it. And the reason we are here using dice in the first place, the reason we're playing with different people and not reading a novel or writing a novel, is for that element of surprise, because people are going to do things you don't expect. The dice are going to do things that you do not expect. And winning the game, unlike, say, in a computer game, winning the game is not necessarily winning in a tabletop game. You can roll a 1 and majorly mess something up, and That can be super fun. That can be so fun. Failing a roll. As long as the table can embrace that and as long as the GM can embrace that. And because there are fun stories to tell in failing to do something or in having to change your plans on the fly because the dice said no. But the point of tabletop gaming is you don't know what's going to happen. So as long as you can sit there and not hold too closely to the story you think you're telling and let things go out in weird and different directions, that's great. That's great. And I think problems come here when, a player has like, this is my character and I'm going to stick to my character no matter what. And my character is a Batman type who doesn't want to play with others. And I just want to go it alone instead of, falling into what's happening at the table. So you can hold too tight to a character, or a GM can hold too tightly to the story they want to tell, and that kind of ruins that collaborative aspect. It makes it so, we need to win this dice roll. When the thing is, the dice are kind of there telling the story, and you're going with it. So you've got to be willing to literally roll with it. And that's what makes it so fun.
Phil.
I was trying to think of a specific example of this happening while Liz was talking, and I completely failed to come up with one. I think part of my best tip for handling this, I guess, would be to take something to heart that RPGs always say, and that no one ever really, I guess, pays much attention to. Don't roll unless it truly matters and the stakes, like the outcome, is not already set, is what I would say. Because a lot of players are conditioned, I think, and I'm going to point the finger here at 5e, to want to roll for a lot of things.
For everything?
Whether for everything, like whether the stakes are there, whether it's, even if the outcome should be set in stone, just because they're conditioned to roll dice to make checks. If there is something that I would say that Liz is correct, don't hold too tightly to a story. We're here to play to find out what happens, not to tell a story. Because if you just want to tell a story, sit around and tell a story or write a novel, please. We're here to play a game. But if there are things that should happen, if it would make no sense for it not to happen that way, and a dice roll has the potential to derail it, and you all agree at the table that would be a completely silly outcome, don't roll the dice. Don't let the dice dictate that. If there's a story beat that it would make no sense not to hit if this dice roll fails, don't take that chance. Don't bring fate into it here. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think that if the stakes are high and the outcome is uncertain, just roll the dice and then roll with it, because you are playing to discover what happens. You don't necessarily have a preset story. And I think on the DM side of things, the biggest tip I would give here is to plan situations, not plots. Like you are not writing a novel. You are not writing a screenplay. You are creating a situation in which things are happening or have happened, and you are unleashing players, the greatest agents of chaos, into it, and just kind of seeing what happens. That's really what you're all there to do, is to kind of see what happens. And so in these cases, don't think of it as derailing. Think of it as the dice raising a possibility that maybe you or your players didn't anticipate and that wasn't set in stone, and that could be something cool that none of you thought of, and now you've got to work at it. It's like a little practice for your imagination. Okay, so my wizard completely fumbled this spell in this crucial situation. How did that happen? What happened, and what is the outcome? What's the cool outcome?
Yeah. I'm going to chime in here because Phil basically said exactly what I was going to say too, which is storytelling is fun when, at least for me, like in that moment where if it's high stakes and the result isn't written in stone, that's when dice rolling becomes important. And moving away from using dice for everything, I think, is really, really important. If you go back and listen to a bunch of the games that we've run, one of the things that you'll see is that we won't make people roll for something. It'll just happen, or if it makes sense. Like, as a DM, one of the things that I do is, if you can justify how you can do something or why something would happen, I'm okay with just letting it happen. It's like the concept, and I think Matt and I have talked about this before. It's also absurd that a highly trained, seasoned warrior who, an epic level hero, a level 20 hero, would miss on a level 1 goblin, right? Like, thematically, it doesn't make sense. You'd have more Lord of the Rings moments where that person is just mowing through these lower minions. But then when he gets to the boss battle, that's when the dice start rolling, because that's when the dice start mattering. So for me, I haven't had a lot of places where it completely derailed the story, because as a DM, I make it a point to, if you are rolling dice, it's because this is an uncertain moment that needs a resolution that isn't finished. And then whatever that resolution is, I will continue off of from that story. Case in point, with the fact that when I ran Otherworld for the site, we had in the campaign prior to that, with the players that I had prior to that, they decided that they were going to make really weird choices. And then when it got to the time of actually rolling dice, the dice determined that they had woken up an eldritch horror, like an old god, the mother of all monsters. And so what that did is that informed the rest of that campaign, and then what happened in the other campaigns. But the dice told that story, and it was uncertain whether or not they were going, like, what was going to happen with it. But everything leading up to that point was driven by player choices. So that's the way I look at it. And I think we'll round it out with Matt here, if he has any opinion on this or a story anecdote to regale us with.
I mean, I don't find dice rolls disruptive to my story, because my story is kind of like a suggestion I wrote to myself. I come up with stuff. I don't run a lot of pre-made modules. And when I do, I change a ton of stuff, because I want to make sure that, if you own that book, you're not going to still know just what everything to do. I'm just one of those people. So for me, it's much more likely that a player is going to disrupt things, because they're just going to do something I don't expect, like immediately try to mind control the villain of the story upon first almost meeting. Not even first meeting, first almost meeting. And I just roll with those things. I roll with somebody decides, hey, I want to do something weird, and I roll with it. If the dice, like, if we're ever in a situation where a dice roll failing is going to just mess up the story so bad that it's unsalvageable, I immediately come up with a way that it won't, without preventing people from tasting what they rolled for. One example, going back to of all things, one of the games I ran for this site was I had to, like, cobble together something really fast, because people were doing something different than I intended. And so I basically made a Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing, and Mitch immediately rolled so well on it that there was no conflict. Everybody just talked to the bears. I'm like, okay, you get to, instead of having a combat encounter with these bears, you just make friends with them. And they tell you how to get to the magic boat you're looking for. And it was all very, just let it happen. Like, it's not a problem. Just, I feel like sometimes people are too attached to not just the story they want, whether they're players or DMs, it doesn't matter. But they're too attached to the idea of what their character is, or what the story is. There's got to be room for weird things to happen. There's got to be room for counterspell wars. That wasn't even a dice roll that was bad. It was just everybody deciding to use counterspell over until one guy tried to cast a spell. Liz counterspelled it. He tried to counterspell Liz's counterspell. Joe counterspelled it. Some other NPC counterspelled it. And I think Mitch jumped in with a counterspell at this point. I didn't even know he could cast it. And it was just like, what is happening with all these counterspells? I just went with it. You just go with what, if you go into it thinking, okay, here's my suggestion of what's going to happen. If they decide to do something entirely different, or if somebody rolls so bad on a dice roll that it's going to end up completely ruining the narrative, just make it not ruin it. You can take whole sections of your story out, move them, change the place. Like, I moved everything that was going to happen in the city to a flying boat, and it was the same stuff. I didn't have to change anything. I just used the same encounters, but now they were on a flying boat. Instead of going from the city to the various other dimensional planes they ended up going to, they just flew there on the boat. And it was fine. I feel like sometimes people are just too convinced, oh no, the party is dead. That breaks everything. No, the party is dead, and now the god of death is like, what did you do? What did you do? Why are you all dead? You're not supposed to be dead. All right, I'm going to have to put you back. You better actually save the day because, man, this is a personal issue on mine now. I have to expend my own power to keep you from being dead. And that's just not cool. So, take two, boom. That's me. That's how I run games. I feel like my role isn't necessarily to tell the epic story I want to tell. It's to give the players a framework to tell a story. And the dice are the mechanism by which we don't have, well, I shoot him. Well, he's got a bulletproof tabletop. You get a bulletproof tank top on. You can't kill him. The dice tell you whether or not you hit. It removes, nobody's mad at you anymore. They get mad at the dice. And the dice are inanimate objects. They don't care how you feel about it. So, yeah, I get where you're going with this. I think the answer for me would be to always have a flexible mindset and let the dice guide the thing to where it goes.
Yeah, and it's also very easy for newer, like Phil said, newer DMs to fall into the trap of rolling for everything. And I think we've always said, and this is what I'll end with, remember at the end of the day, even with dice rolling, the rules are just a suggestion. At the end of the day, it is the responsibility of everybody participating in the game, whether it is the players or the storyteller or GM, whatever you want to call them, to make sure that everybody, including the person running the game, is having fun. If everybody is having a good time and agrees that this is what should happen or is happy with what things went, you've done your job. At the end of the day, it's a game, not a job.
There's a story I remember from one of the people I watch on YouTube who talks about gaming, who's like, just because the player decides to say, I'm going to roll to seduce the dragon, doesn't mean the dragon has to get seduced.
Mm-hmm.
The dragon, it's an ageless being of unfathomable reptilian power. It might find it amusing, like if he rolls really well. Oh, well, that's clever. But it's not going to just necessarily fall in love with this talking mouse. It'd be like, seriously, it'd be like if a mouse walked up to you and started going, oh, hey, baby, you're a mouse. I'm not in love with you. Sorry, but you're cute. Here, I'll put you in this cage with a nice wheel you can run.
The other thing is to just not have a dice roll if there isn't a chance of success or failure. I do like sometimes having dice rolls to determine the amount of success or the amount,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's fun to be like, but like, let's say a hero is trying to climb a wall and it's like a 6-foot wall and you're like a level 10 adventurer. You shouldn't have to roll an athletics check to see if you can get over this 6-foot wall because you're a hero and like maybe you're gonna get over the wall.
Maybe rolling athletics checks to see if it's graceful or not, but you're gonna get over, right? Or something like that.
Exactly. But you're not gonna say, oh, you rolled a 1, you've fallen and broken your leg, because that just isn't a fun story to tell, to be stymied by, okay, here's a fence that I can't get over. The entire party is stuck here because we made a series of bad rolls and now, so if there isn't, the dice educate the story and educate the decision making, but you don't have to say, oh, we're going to roll for everything and we have to roll, because some things heroes can just do. And like Matt was just saying about seducing the dragon, just because you roll, even if you roll a natural 20 on persuasion, that doesn't mean you can seduce a dragon, because a dragon may not dragons just aren't into you, dude. Dragons are not necessarily into you.
The dragon's just not that into you. I would interpret that as maybe the dragon finds you amusing.
I'm sorry, but that's perfect. That should be a clip. That needs to be a clip. When you do a clip, that's going to be the dragon's just not that into you, dude.
But that's the thing, is the dice are telling the story, but you're also telling the story, and you don't have to hold to anything so tightly that the dice can't be involved, but you can't bow to the dice completely and everything we're going to roll for, and everything, if you roll a 20, you're definitely getting it, It's cooperative. It's a cooperative game with the GM, with the players, and with the dice, and part of that is deciding, when do you even roll dice? You don't have to roll dice for everything.
Well, hopefully that answers your question, Titsemi. Thank you very much for sending that in, but I think we're going to call it there. Friends, as a reminder, Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions of patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this site, podcast, and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to the podcast, a better chance at having your question answered on our podcast, or the Q&A and ads-free site experience. If you have questions for this or any of our podcasts, be sure to send those in. You can send them into podcast@blizzardwatch.com. Specify the show that it is for in the subject line, as well as any special pronunciation of your name. If you are a Patreon subscriber and you don't want to send us an email or a message on Patreon, we do have a couple channels set aside on Discord. One for the non-Patreon subscribers, which is the Q and Podcast Questions channel. Anybody can post there. But for the Patreon subscribers, we have the Patreon Q and Podcast Questions channel. We tend to look there first as a way of saying thank you for helping us keep the lights on. Well, that, folks, we'll catch you next time.